enjoyed that as well. It's coming around to 22:09 right here at Sunday Breakfast. Do you know, this morning I feel I need an extra hour on this morning's programme. There's so much to pack in, but don't go anywhere, please. Anyway, we have been talking this morning about the global persecution of Christians, the subject of a conference in Truro on religious intolerance and the persecuted church. So why is the plight of Christians being largely ignored by the world? Is it because the bid for oil wealth is outbidding in the West's mind the rights of the individual and unleashing fundamentalist violence? Just why aren't Muslim leaders speaking out more vocally about extremism? Well, I spoke to Sheikh Dr. Mohammed Al-Hussaini, who is a Fellow in Islamic Studies for the Westminster Institute.
Yes, I'd really like to draw attention in this conference to some of the issues that lead to extremist interpretations of Islamic belief that in turn lead to violence, particularly against Christian minorities, and why that has taken place. And also, I'm a bit more controversially going to address the questions of why we in this country have to a certain extent colluded with certain so-called moderate Muslim voices that actually in reality act as front organizations for Islamist political parties overseas. So unless we can engage with frankness and with honesty with the extent to which we in this country, our liberal political establishments, have colluded with Islamist groups, albeit soft Islamist groups, we can't with that same integrity address the way that those same groups acting in a violent capacity overseas cause such mayhem and persecution to other religious minorities.
Why do you think there has been that degree of collusion in a way then? Is it a fear of racism?
Well, there is this culture of political correctness, it certainly has to be said, but at the same time there's also the imperative of, if you like, political expediency. When we engage in foreign policy actions overseas, there is a sense in which government feels it needs to placate the home Muslim crowd, and so in the process of doing deals with Islamist groups like Jamaat-e-Islami here in the UK, with the Muslim Council of Britain and the Islamic Foundation, what we've got ourselves into is a very difficult situation where the same people that whose overseas branches are engaging in acts of religiously motivated violence are the same people wearing suits and ties here in the UK and having tea with the Queen and shaking hands with the Prime Minister, and that's a worrying phenomenon. What's also a source of great concern to me is that some of the actors in promoting this collusion are actually Christian actors or sometimes Jewish actors even, where leaders of the church through the interfaith dialogue structures, which do great work on the grassroots, but at a high level can become an interfaith industry of saying nice things we don't really mean to people we don't really like, provide a conduit for these Islamist organizations to do a very good public relations exercise. Look, I'm in my big mosque, I've got a rabbi and a clergyman sat next to me, and we're not extremists. Look at us. And what it has the knock-on effect of is promoting these people to positions where they claim leadership over me. So apparently they represent me. I never voted for them, and this is certainly the case for substantial tranches of the Muslim community who do not recognize groups like the MCB as speaking for them. In 2006-2007, there were two polls done by the Policy Exchange and Channel 4, which showed that only something like 4 to 6% of Muslims recognize these Jamaat-e-Islami front organizations as speaking for them. And then there's the whole sort of domestic situation of behind closed doors violence against women, the marginalization of dissenting Muslim voices, including mine, it has to be said. And so it means a great deal to me that it's my Christian brothers and sisters that have provided me a platform which mainstream, if you like, mainstream interreligious establishment would not, because they'd be too afraid of offending. So in the course of wanting to build bridges, what certain establishments into faith organizations have done is they've actually excluded minority Muslim voices or dissenting liberal Muslim voices because they're too afraid of offending the Islamist groups, and that's a tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think the same goes for Muslim leaders? I mean, there seems to be a frustration that Muslim leaders are not standing up condemning the fundamentalism, the extremism.
Well, for some years I've been knocking on the doors of organizations that I thought were acting in good faith in order to highlight, the obligation that they have to reciprocity. We're building mega mosques here while we're burning down churches over there. It's just simply wrong. But it came up, I just came up against this deafening wall of silence and this absolute determination that we will bat off whatever issues are thrown at us, because we are a British Muslim organisation. We only talk about British Muslim concerns. Well, actually, whenever something goes off in the West Bank or Gaza, you're right out there with issuing a statement or something like that, or something in Iraq or elsewhere. So these are all the forked tongues of politicians playing their political game when they've got checks coming in from overseas, from Saudi and Pakistan. So they can't offend their paymasters. So we're all in an unpleasant political, unpleasant sort of game of realpolitik, and the only way to cut through it is to speak with godliness and with prophetic truthfulness, and this is very much the spirit of this conference, and I'm very proud to be here.
Sure. Okay, just very, very quickly now, we heard earlier that the Sunni-Shia war developing could spell the ultimate demise of Christianity.
Well, I think it's an absolute tragedy that within my lifetime, 2,000 years of Christian presence in its biblical heartland is being obliterated, and I can't tell you how much that pains my heart. I mean, my father's side of the family originate from Iraq, actually, and so yeah, the pain and hardship that it causes me to see our Christian brothers and sisters sort of eliminated from that space. And the Quranic verse talks about how the men of violence will indeed destroy mosques and churches and monasteries and synagogues, these places where God's name is commemorated abundantly, and unfortunately we see these things happening in our lifetime, and it's an absolute ghastly situation.
There we are. That was Sheikh Dr. Mohammed Al-Hussaini from the Westminster Institute speaking to me on Saturday, actually. Very, very interesting. I'd love to hear what you think. In fact, Keith in Redruth is on the line now. Good morning to you, Keith.
Oh, good morning, Donna. It was lovely to recount those words of what he was saying. I was at that meeting, and it was very harrowing, some of the things that we heard. And this is the trouble with the church here in Britain, that we're not being told these things, and for half the church it's asleep because it just goes over their head anyhow.
So why do you think we're not being told these things? Why is it taking such a long time for the world and the world's media to wake up to it and report it?
Well, because as he allayed to, this is the problem. Where are we getting our oil from? Is it all to do with oil? Is it because we're afraid of cut her now off her nose to spite her face sort of thing? And this is what our problem here is in the West. We are now this thing about oil is being the preeminence of why this country financially finds itself in 10 years, 20 years we're paying extreme cost for oil, and it's only going to get worse, because if these Islamists cut off the oil pipelines, what are we to do?
Well, it's all right talking about it, though, isn't it, Keith? But did you feel that at the end of the conference there was almost like a call to action? Did you feel as though there was some hope that something or small steps could be taken to alleviate the situation and the scale of suffering?
I have to say, all the speakers were excellent, and Caroline Cox, bless her, she really resonated with me and really spoke into my heart that we need to wake up as Christians and be more giving, forgiving, praying for these people, because this is going on. And one of the quotes that I actually looked it up last night, and it says, the only necessary thing for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
Absolutely. That's a very famous quote, isn't it? And it is right, and we are all guilty of that.
Very much so. And I'm the same. I'm no different than anybody else, Donna. And we need to wake up to the truth. I read the book, reading through the book, Open Doors. There's 50 countries spoken of in this little booklet, and 36 of those countries are being beaten up by Islamic extremism. I mean, this is terrible. It really is. And like Doctor said, we need to speak up about it, and we do have to encourage the Muslim moderates to also speak out. But unfortunately, they're the same as the Christians. They would be beheaded and executed because of their speaking out.
That's such a very good point, because one of the very, very strong themes of the conference, and I think we all need to kind of take this away with us, is that, we were talking also about Christianity, but about the fact that it is the responsibility of all denominations and people of no faith to look out and see and speak out against religious intolerance of all faiths.
That's correct. And of course, the other thing is, humanism has reared its ugly head, and people, Bishop Tim was talking, I wanted to take it over to that Bishop Tim said that are we becoming more self, and this is probably another reason why these things are happening. And I have to say that the church has got to speak up, and the church has got to be preaching about and speaking about these things and be relevant today of what's going on. It's no good speaking of past things. We've got to be open to what's happening in the world today and let our churches, let these people know what's going on, and we have to do it. And that's what Caroline Cox says.
Absolutely.
The media's got to get it out. I have to say that we're hearing so much about Israel and the Palestinians. We didn't hear about those 90-odd children that were taken. We never heard about that, Donna, but we heard it there in the conference. We didn't hear about all these churches being burnt down, but the one significant thing from that, even to me, was that one of those churches that was burnt down were, as Caroline Cox says, were the words, "We forgive." And that's what we need to be. We need to be a forgiving people.
Absolutely, Keith.
And
thank
compassionate.
you. Sadly, I've got to leave it there, but thank you so much for coming onto the program,
Thank you,
Keith.
Donna, for allowing me on.
Much appreciated. You have a lovely
Can I
day.
send my love to Olive, dear, over
Yes.
tonight? So I met up with Olive doing a job down that way, and
she's had an accident. I know.
She has,
I know. So she won't be at church today,
No,
but
that's right.
I hope
But
she's all right.
Just let her know that we're thinking of it.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Keith. All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. There we are, Keith in Redruth. Yes, take care, Olive. But yeah, one of the other things is that they were saying at this conference that we need to all reach out as Christians, or whatever faith we are, in love. It's all about love. That is the vital principle.